are joining us for the final instalment of our Profitable Property Secrets Week, powered by Platinum Property Partners. And all this week we have been looking at some of the chapters in founder Steve Bolton's updated book of the same name. As I say, we've reached the final instalment, Steve. It's been such an interesting week talking to you. And I, in some ways, Steve, I have to say I do regard you as a mentor for me and Nick. You've been so generous in sharing your knowledge with us on a personal level and supporting us with Property Tribes. And that's very much part of your personal ethos, isn't it? And we talk about it in business, but I think, you know, of course it extends into the property sector, because we do have to develop relationships with so many different people, contractors and so on. What's your stance on this?
I think people are everything, you know, and I was very fortunate at the age of 17 to land an apprenticeship as an outdoor pursuits instructor, and that's where I discovered a passion for coaching, mentoring, training, teaching, just passing on knowledge and helping people become more, you know, achieve more, believe in themselves, all of that sort of thing. So I think we all need help, right? There's no such thing as self-made success. Yeah, anybody that thinks there is, it's like we all need help. It's all about people. So yes, you need to understand property to be successful, but you need to understand people a lot more. And so for me, there's kind of three core principles that de-risk it. De-risk any kind of business as well as property investing, and that is standing on the shoulders of giants. So learning from experts, mentors, coaches, mortgage brokers, professional advisors, property tribes, yeah, just actually having mentors and people you can learn from. Doesn't have to be on a one-to-one basis. Great if it is, but you can get that through books, you can get it through forums, those sorts of things. But podcasts, exactly. People that got more experience than you. Expanding and upgrading your network. Okay, there's sayings, you become the average of the people you spend most time with. It's not strictly true, you know, because actually if you've got no motivation and you're surrounded by multimillionaires, doesn't mean you'll become a multimillionaire if you don't do anything. But generally speaking, I always sort of see it as a metaphor, like if you've got a swimming pool and that swimming pool is freezing cold and you jump into it, guess what? Your body temperature is going to go down. Similarly, if you jump into a crowd or a community of people who earn less than you, who are less healthy, who are unhappy, miserable gits that complain all the time, all right, guess what? You're going to feel that. It's just common sense, right? Whereas if you jump into a hot jacuzzi, your temperature's going to go up, you're going to feel better, you're going to, you know, and same thing. If you're surrounded by people that are more successful, or you're reading their books, or you're getting to know them. So that network effect is really, really important. And you know, most people probably heard that before, but what most people don't do is challenge themselves to say, okay, let me do something that on the one hand might sound quite brutal. I'm going to analyze my network, all right? And I encourage people to do this, all right? Which is, you can have a little spreadsheet or just a bit of paper, and you rate people that you know. Maybe leave family out of it, because I don't want us to end in divorce for people. But you can rate them on whatever scale you want. And simply, I sort of say 3 ones to good start: health, wealth, and happiness. Okay, and score them. If they're about the same as you in each of those, just give them a 0 score. If they're better, you know, or more wealthy, or more healthy, or more happy than you, generally speaking, give them a +1, a +2, or a +3. And conversely, worse, -1, -2, -3. What's super interesting about doing that is you've now got a quantitative way to look at people and sort of say, well, actually, that's really interesting. In the field of wealth, the 5, 6, 7 people I spend most time with have come out with a negative score. So my swimming pool, when it comes to money in my network, is cold. They are going to reduce my temperature. Similarly with health, I would say I've done this probably 250 times with people. I've seen 250 of those types of spreadsheets from people. Less than 5% of the time is the number, when they're all added up, a positive number. Okay, so 95% of people in the population, in my experience, okay, are surrounded by people that are less wealthy, less healthy, and less happy than they are. Guess what? That's probably going to mean that you're going to end up either at the same or a lower level of wealth, health, and happiness. So if you want to increase your results, surround yourself with different people. Now, I'm not talking about getting rid of your best friends from school, you know, or not spending time with family members, but you might choose to either reallocate the time that you spend with them or bringing in some new people. Okay, so I always say it's not, it's upgrading and expanding your network. Okay, both of those things. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is invest in yourself, learning, education, reading books, not necessarily personal, like coaches and mentors, but getting educated. Property Tribes is, you know, just an amazing resource. It's been around so long, it's searchable. You know, there are other websites, there are magazines, there are forums that you can go to, there are events that you can go to. Yeah, Warren Buffett said, the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. Yeah, in his wall in his office at Berkshire Hathaway is not his degrees from university. It's a weekend course he did from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because he was scared of public speaking and dealing with people, and he overcame that fear of speaking and dealing with people, and that, he says, was the best investment he ever made. You know, so those 3 things: stand on the shoulders of giants, mentors, coaches, upgrade, expand your network, and investing in yourself, overlaid with motivation, right? You can do all of those things, but if you don't have an inherent kind of motivation and drive, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to build a property portfolio? Okay, think about what are the positives and negatives. If you don't, what are the consequences? And think about those in the future and kind of paint a bad scenario, because pain causes a change of behavior. Positive stuff sustains behavior. So have positive and negative reasons that will drive motivation, and then do those 3 things.
Could you give some tips on how to upgrade your network? Because people do tend to hang out in tribes, and they identify with people that are kind of similar to themselves. So how can you upgrade your network?
Yeah, so first thing, do the baseline. Yeah, so understand before you go on a journey, if you want to go to Manchester, well, you need to know where we're starting in White City in London, okay? So understand what your baseline is, so you've got something to measure it against. Okay, because you might have people probably in your network, there might be 1 or 2 or even more, that have got more skills or more knowledge or more experience or more wealth that you can learn from already. All right?
And who may have more contacts.
Correct, exactly. You know, so there's value in your network already. And again, I said earlier, it might sound brutal. It's not brutal, right? If you want to be successful, you have to observe the masses and do the opposite. All right. When I interview people like world champion athletes, Olympians, really people worth hundreds of millions of pounds, and I ask them a question, and I sort of say, you know, how vigilant are you in your network? I remember Chris Akabusi, one of our franchise partners at PPP. I said, Chris, what do you think? Expanding and upgrading your network. How important is it that people? He's like, Steve, it's everything. He's like, you know, we won gold medal. We beat the world champions in 1991 at the World Championship in 4x400 relay. Okay, the people that were in that team were the 4 best in the country. If you weren't good enough, you weren't on our team. There was room for 2 or 3 kind of substitutes, but see you later. If you're not good enough, you're out. So in a sporting sense, it's brutal. Okay. In a business sense, if you want to be successful, you don't employ rubbish staff. You don't go into business with a stupid business partner, right? You're going to be as successful as the people you surround yourself with. So if you want to be successful, if you want to achieve more, then actually how can you do it? Look at your existing network and maybe spend more time with others and less time with some, you know. If you want to be, you know, there was a period in my life where I actually moved location and changed 90% of the people I associated with. Okay, 90%. It was like a radical overhaul because I'd lost my house. I think I needed to start again. I needed to surround myself, and I went all in. When I tend to do things, I do them in quite a big way. You know, so I did a massive evolution of my kind of network. But for most people, it's reaching out to other people, having the confidence to write emails, dealing with rejection, right? You can email people, you can call people. You'll be so surprised how few people get asked for help. Yeah. How few people get asked. People just think, oh, I'm not worthy, or they'll say no, or they'll reject me. It's like 7 no's before you get a yes. I teach my kids, right? Ask in a different way 7 times and be persistent and learn to overcome rejection. So find people that you admire, that you respect. You might have to pay them, you know, or you might have to think about how can I add value to them. Yeah, but just ask. That's the fundamental thing. Have an awareness. I'm not an alcoholic, but in Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about the first step is awareness. You've got to be aware that you have a problem or you want to change something. The second step is to take responsibility. So then to actually take action and take responsibility for it. So it's one of the main reasons I created PPP was to create a network of mentors, of coaches, of educators. So those three principles, we've got people that have got wealth and motivation. They've got a network of mentors, they've got a network of people they can learn from and raise their success temperature, hundreds of them, and we're doing training, education, online, offline, live events, workshops, nationally, regionally, just blitz those things, and over time you will be successful.
This is fantastic stuff, Steve. It reminds me of John Howard, who is a developer with over 40 years experience. He was recently asked about who he associates with, and he said, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to be surrounded by people that are much smarter than me. And it's very similar to what Steve Jobs said. He said, I don't employ people so that I tell them what to do. I employ them so that they tell me what to do. So a lot of what you're saying is also about not having that ego that you're the best person in the room, to seek other people that know more than you and surround yourself with those people. I think that's really, really fantastic advice. There's also, I think, in property, that there has to be trust as well, and that it's important to take time to build trust and build relationships. It's not like an instant thing. You have to nurture them, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think linking those two things you've just said together, the understanding what your strengths are and kind of doubling down on those. There's an old saying, if you develop your weaknesses, you just end up with a lot of well-developed weaknesses. Yeah. So actually, there are certain things like money or numbers you have to get good at. You have to have a certain level of competence. But there are other things where actually, if you focus on what you're good at and you're passionate about and you enjoy, and then find other people, develop those trusting relationships with other people that can support you, that I think is the best way to be successful and achieve what you want to, because you're going to be more motivated, you're going to enjoy what you do, you're going to use your talents, you're going to find other people to fill those gaps. But doing that, finding people with integrity, doing it with integrity, seeing it as, Stephen Covey in the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the habits of highly effective people is they think win-win or no deal. Okay, so this is actually about how can I add value to you, how can you, not in a purely transactional sense, and no deal. That's an important part. It's like, if it doesn't work, then let's just agree not to work together. It's not, it's not always win-win. You can't always make it work. So win-win, think win-win or no deal, and have that mutually beneficial relationship. And trust is, it's an interesting word. Integrity, you hear it bandied around. Well, what is trust? Trust, actually, I think the best definition I've heard is it's a combination of character and competence. So character is the values level. You do what you say you're going to do. When the going gets tough, you double down and you help and you support, and you've got a giving mentality. So that those positive, wholesome, good character traits that nobody can kind of dispute, that those things are. That's what good looks like in a humanistic values level. Competence, you can actually do what you say you're going to do. If you're a builder and you say you're going to do it for this price on this time, you do it for that price on that time. And if something goes wrong, you got the character to come to me and say, look, Steve, taken on too much, or one of my guys is off sick, and actually I can't finish that job. So character and competence for builders, mortgage brokers, solicitors. I had a solicitor once. I lost a deal and I lost £20,000 because they went out of business. Went off with my £20,000 and and I lost a house purchase in the process. So having that trust, getting recommendations, building it over time, back to due diligence.
Yes, it always goes back to due diligence, doesn't it? Well, we've had a fantastic week with Steve. I've got one more question for you, Steve. I think this is a really good one to end on. Landlords do tend to work in isolation very often. They've got their day job, their career, and it's amazing how much everyday life just invades what you're doing, and it's so easy just to get into your little routines and whatnot. I think it's so important to take time to meet other landlords, meet other people. And I always cite the Southampton Boat Show, actually, because when you go to an event like that, it's actually really inspirational. And Nick and I actually got into property originally to be able to afford to have a yacht, because we're very keen sailors. We've changed a little bit since then, but just to keep in touch with that inspiration. When you go to an event like that, it's amazing how many landlords were there. We met you there.
Sure.
And it's a great thing to just almost like a vitamin injection of positivity and inspiration and meeting good people. So what I'm really saying is don't just sit at home over your computer, week in, week out. It is important to go out, and there are lots of great events like the Landlord Investment Shows, the Property Investor Show, and other events that are around the country where you can expand and enhance your network.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think what's interesting about it, knowing thousands of landlords, been in the industry nearly 20 years, is a dichotomy actually, because to be a landlord, to be a property investor, to one degree, you've got to be an independent thinker, right? You need courage. You're taking risk. You've got to go against the advice that conventional wisdom will tell you. So we're generally, as a community, quite independent minded, quite determined, all of those sorts of things. But actually, to be successful, you have to have a community. I mean, it's why I started, it's one of the fundamental reasons I started PPP, because actually I made a hell of a lot of mistakes. It took me a long time. The risk was a lot higher. It was like, wow, just imagine if I had a community of people that were all doing the same thing, we shared values, that all had the same strategy, that open book would share with me, not just the BS kind of story about how great things were, and I bought I bought it for 100 grand in the morning and sold it for 150 grand in the afternoon, and all that kind of stuff, the bravado that comes with it, or the people that are doing really well, like completely open book. We're in it together, and my parting thought for anybody really is to go through life reaching a hand up all the time, asking for help. There's always people up there that you can learn from in any area of life, but also go through life with a hand down, helping people come up, because you never know where they're going to be in future. It's really rewarding to actually help people. We've all got knowledge that we can give, from different industries, from our background. I believe everybody can be a mentor, and everybody needs mentors. And I think if everyone goes through life with a hand up and a hand down mentality, awesome. It's like, it's like pay it forward, but in a very human way.
Well, I have to say, Steve, that is just such a wonderful sentiment to end on. Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much to you for all that you do within the property community, and your support of Property Tribes as well, and powering this week. I think it's been a brilliant week, and we do urge everybody to check out Steve's book. I will put a link below the video for you. So all that remains for me today is to say thank you very, very much, Steve. Always a pleasure to talk to you. I always get so much value from when I talk to you, and as I said, you've been a huge supporter of myself, Nick, and Property Tribes. Thank you for that. Don't go changing. So we hope you've enjoyed this week, and please do, if you've been watching on YouTube, we invite you to click across to propertytribes.com. That is where our discussions are hosted. That's where you get the full experience of all the hive mind of knowledge and experience, and as we said, make other people's hindsight your foresight, and that will speed you on your way on your property journey and help you avoid the pitfalls. But we're signing off from here from our Profitable Property Secrets Week, and we do hope you have enjoyed it, and we welcome your comments. Thank you, Steve.